We're going to show you some design ideas for a small backyard. I think this might appeal to many of you that don't have a lot of space, to show the creativity and the boundless possibilities even in a small garden. We're going to show you many ideas today in this video. Hi, I'm John Valentino of John and Bob's. I'm here with Chip Valentino. We're here in a Bob Truxell of John and Bob's designed garden. So we're all represented here, John, Bob, and Chip. And we're in a garden that borrows on a long-standing tradition that was established many decades ago and is now being followed all over the country. Even though it's called the California style of gardening, you'll see it's a style used all over the country and in other countries. And that California style was really pioneered by famous landscape architects like Thomas Church and Garrett Ekbo, and it involves enlarging the house out into the garden and making usable spaces in the garden, almost like rooms like you would see inside the house. At this garden, you can see we've created several different rooms and created areas to enjoy the outdoor space in different types of settings. The first thing we'd like to start with is this narrow side yard that has some iron trellises. So this side yard had these star jasmine, which really had not amounted to much over the last 5 years or so because they were on an old wooden trellis that really wasn't big enough to allow them to spread out, and also because the soil wasn't that great. We're improving the soil with lots of blend, and we built into the wall this system of steel trellising, and that allows the star jasmine, this established kind of old star jasmine, to perk up and then start to twine around the metal and on the wires that we've built here. And that's the case with many vines. There's only a few vines that will actually stick to a wall like this. You can see this is a concrete block wall. Could be a wood fence or anything, and usually vines won't stick to them, so you have to come up with some method to allow them to cover that wall and grow along that wall. This is a good solution because it's very handsome and it's very sturdy and it covers the whole wall. Now this star jasmine can grow over this whole wall, twine around, and attach itself to the trellis. In small gardens, a real problem is a lot of times the fences can dominate because you're in a small space. All you see is you're surrounded by fences, and the fences are really noticeable. What we like to do, and we did in this garden, is we painted this block wall and all the block walls in the garden. We painted them with a color called Dragon's Breath, which is very recessive, meaning it doesn't draw attention to the fence or the wall. If you wanted the fence to really stand out, maybe you'd paint it the same color as the house or something, you know, a brighter color. But we don't want the fence to stand out. We want it to blend in, but yet look distinguished and elegant. And this Dragon's Breath color really accomplishes that. Important in the side yard and in the rest of the garden, as you can see. The other thing we did is we want to plant in front of those fences and make it where you're surrounded by more green. And this garden had a lot of existing plants, actually good screening plants, but in order to accomplish what we wanted with the final screen, they all needed to be moved. So we moved them all very recently, and you can see some have taken to that better than others, and they're not all looking like they're in the prime of their life. But what we're doing is we transplanted them, they're all alive. We're now building up the soil dramatically with lots of blend, and we think in the spring they're going to sprout like crazy, and we're going to have a much more vibrant looking screen in front of these walls that we've just painted with our recessive Dragon's Breath paint. This area right next to the new fireplace is a good example of that. Currently all we could find is very small dwarf kumquats. And we wanted to use dwarf kumquats so that they don't get too big for the space and there's not a lot of pruning required. So you can see they don't even show. If you look behind this wall, you can see them starting to grow, we hope. But if you can picture this with these billowy kumquats filling the space all the way to the top of the wall, that's going to be a nice backdrop in framing the chimney. That takes a little bit of imagination, but they actually grow pretty quickly. And we think we're going to get a lot of growth relying on really healthy soil, lots of John and Bob's blend, and we're going to encourage these things to take off and give us more of a backdrop. So the idea of outdoor rooms is perfectly illustrated by this space I'm standing in, and this space is defined by a brand new fireplace. We built it out of iron and stone. We built a little, what really can double as a seat wall that has inset lighting in it, and the seat wall then defines the space. When you are making outdoor rooms, you want to define the space, and this space is defined very clearly by this fencing, the dwarf kumquats behind the iron fencing that has an attractive design, and then the fireplace with the metal hearth and the seat wall that you can sit on that we used a large tile to face. So this is an outdoor living room, family room with a fireplace, and that's the whole idea of the California style of landscaping. When I first looked at this garden and the owners said they wanted a pool, it looked like there wasn't enough room for it. Bob Truxell did a great design where it looks like it was made for a linear pool like this with a little water feature, PebbleTech bottom, even has a spa. Really a spectacular, simple, elegant look that I think is carried off perfectly in a small garden. You can see very efficient use of space and still a pool big enough to entertain and enjoy. The outdoor garden lighting, which is low voltage LED, in this case we used FX luminaire, and surprisingly it doesn't look like it because in my opinion it looks very professional, but it is something that a do-it-yourselfer could do very easily because this style of lighting doesn't require by code conduit or deep trenches. Since it has a transformer that converts down to 24 volts, you can run this wire just with a 2 or 3 inch deep trench if you want. We usually put the wire in when we do the irrigation system, so we've usually got it buried about 6 to 8 inches. But all these lights are really simple to install. In this case, you can see we've got a variety of fixtures, some built into walls, some along walkways, and some even uplighting plants. Really effective low voltage garden lighting that you could do yourself. We got these really neat, elegant pots from Architectural Pottery. You can go to their website and see all kinds of nice pottery that they make to your order. In this case, we put limonium and we built them into these columns and walls so that they have water, they have drainage, and they have a system of sealing so that the water doesn't leak out onto the tile and such. So these pots really go nicely with the whole style of the garden and with the pool. Small gardens have limited space. This garden has enough room that we have plants in the ground, but we do have a lot of paved area because with the pool and our living room space, we actually ended up with very little plantable space. And you don't want a garden to look arid, and that is a threat here in a garden like this with concrete block walls surrounding it. And so this idea of using pots hopefully filled with healthy plants. We used good potting soil, which we have a video explaining that you can check back on, as well as using lots of our blend in those pots makes container gardening very simple, especially if you set it up the way we set it up here. It's on an automatic irrigation system. It drains well. It becomes very low maintenance, and in a small garden, pots are really useful and effective. The challenge when you have a small garden, if you want to grow some vegetables, is where do you do it? In this case, we used on one end of the garden where we think we'll have good sun, Corten steel planters, which are available online really very affordably and easy for a homeowner to install. Check out gardenersupply.com. And as you might know, with Corten steel, it rusts to a really attractive patina, so we're just letting it rust. Inside of these Corten steel planters, we have a drip system which is on its own valve, so you can set that on your controller if you happen to go out of town now and then and water your vegetable garden. And it also allows you to use really high quality potting soil with lots of our blend and produce vegetables prolifically. So in keeping with the theme of this video where we're talking about expanding the house into the garden, the other side yard, we already talked about one of the side yards that has the star jasmine with the iron trellis. The other side yard is just slightly expanded but also very narrow, and it had a concrete slab outside of the dining room. And that room has another fireplace. That fireplace offers you some lights and also a planter and a beautiful design, also with a iron hearth. Very creatively designed, and it's a little courtyard in a whole different type of exposure, so it'll be in the sun at completely different times than the other ones that we've looked at in the garden. And it now makes that side yard have a usable feature and have a little nook off of the dining room that is an expansion of the house into the garden. So that side yard has our signature paving, which isn't paving at all, but very environmentally friendly pea gravel over decomposed granite with steel edging that's inexpensive and allows water to go down rather than drain off of like concrete. And yet it's durable, it's attractive, gives you a little texture when you walk on it. We taught you how to build one of those in one of our last videos. Check on that video. And we used that on one of the sides. It goes from the front yard right through to this new little room with the fireplace, and then to the expanded part of the backyard with the pool. Last week we asked you if you would or if you have patched concrete yourself, and we got some excellent answers, and the winner is So we showed you some of our ideas for a small little backyard. What have you tried in a small garden that's been effective, and what do you recommend? What can help all our subscribers and viewers?